Two circles in your life and mine. That's what we're talking about today. Hi, this is Frank Buck, and this is the place to be if you want to get organized and make it look easy. Think about the last time that you went into one of those fast food places at breakfast time. Over in the corner was that table. It's that half dozen who are always there discussing the ailments of the world. Usual topics of conversation are about how dumb the coach of their favorite team has become, what plays could have been called that would be so much more successful, and expounding on expertise from everything from education to finance to the future of the solar system. All the while in the parking lot, you find their cars are barely running. They barely have two nickels to scrape together because of all the poor decisions they've made, and the other people just sort of smile and nod, knowing better than to believe a word that that table has to say. Welcome to the circle of concern. You see, there are two circles that encompass our lives. Stephen Covey discussed the circle of concern and the circle of influence in his book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Published way back in 1989, it's still a huge bestseller. This concept appears in Habit 1, Be Proactive, where he explains that highly effective people focus on what they can control, the circle of influence, rather than worrying about all the things beyond their control, the circle of concern. Covey's model is elegantly simple, yet it's profound. He explains that we all have a large circle of concern that encompasses everything we care about, from world politics, the world in general, the what the governor's doing, what the mayor's doing, inflation, you name it. All of those things that they're concerned about, but they don't necessarily have any direct control over. Then nested inside that circle of concern is a smaller circle. It's called the circle of influence, and it contains all the things that we can actually do something about. And the key to effective living, Covey argues, is focusing our energies on that circle of influence rather than being obsessed over the outer ring of concerns where we lack the ability to do anything about them. Well, this is a pretty good time, I think, to be talking about these two circles because, oh boy, here in the United States, politics is, wow. In today's politically fractured America, we're in a cycle of outrage, of anxiety, of frustration. We scroll through social media feeds that are filled with debate, contentious debate, a lot of times, a lot of name calling. We watch news programs that highlight the division within us and perhaps even engage in heated arguments with family members across political things that, and we talk about others, leaders who don't even know our names. But in the midst of all this political noise, we often forget one crucial truth. Our time is finite. And that's why this topic finds its way in a YouTube channel, in a podcast, in a website that's devoted to organization and time management. Every moment spent fretting over matters beyond our control is a moment lost forever. Time that could have been invested in creating meaningful change where we can actually do something about some things. As we shake our heads at the table over there in the corner at the fast food restaurant, if we're not careful, we can become that at a very early age. The circle of concern in American politics. Our circle of concern is vast and it's overwhelming. National election outcomes. But getting upset doesn't change the outcome. Supreme Court decisions. Well, we don't choose who sits on the bench and we don't get to argue the cases. Media bias and polarization. We don't write the news. We don't hire the reporters. In fact, the more controversial, the better the story. The behavior of political figures. We can only control our own behavior, and they don't even care. Social media echo chambers. It's the copy and paste of memes and epistles devoid of sources and not fact checked before they're posted. It's a daily occurrence. Global political developments. Well, we're not there. We can't do about there. What we can do about is here, and we neglect it. These concerns are legitimate. They affect our country's direction, and they do impact our lives. But however, can we really do anything about some of those things on a large level? Or is there a better focus for us? The wisdom of focus. So, which circle has your focus? Now, here's the genius of Covey's framework. When we focus on the circle of concern and we spend our time on things we can't control, our circle of influence diminishes. Does this make sense? We become less effective in areas where we could have made a difference, all the while feeling increasingly victimized by external circumstances. We become irrelevant. But when we focus on our circle of influence, it gradually expands. Does this make sense? When we spend our time on the things that we can do something about, people see us as delivering our promises and doing things that make life better. We're given bigger roles to play, and our circle of influence increases, it expands in time. Those things that had existed only in our circle of concern are now within that expanded circle of influence. The circle of influence is where real change happens. Within that circle of influence regarding political division, we can find numerous opportunities for meaningful action. Voting in state, local, and national elections. When you vote, you matter. When you don't, you don't. You participate in the process that so many gave their lives to secure and protect. Having respectful conversations with friends and family members across the political aisle. You don't need to convince the rude person he's wrong. It's not going to happen anyway. But your words of calm and reason influence others around him. And that's what you're trying to do. You're not going to change his opinion. He's so firmly planted, he wouldn't give up even if he knew he was wrong. But the people who are watching the conversation see that one person is reasonable and one person is not. And you want to be the voice of reason. Supporting community initiatives that bring diverse groups together. We are better together. And diversity used to be a good word, and now it's suddenly a bad word. Well, talent is not owned by any one group of people. Learning about different perspectives through diverse media sources. If you're listening to one voice, you're getting one opinion. And regardless of how flat the pancake may be, it's got two sides. Lending your time and talents to worthy causes. Play from your strengths. We've all got them. Teach children critical thinking skills and empathy. Children learn through what they observe. Be someone that they want to observe, need to observe. And if they do observe, we'll all be better off for it. That's within that circle of influence. Be thoughtful about our own social media habits and contributions. We are a people blessed beyond belief. Much of what we take for granted was only a dream from generations past. Share the good news. You've got the platform to do it. And when we must address something that has gone off the rails, let's do it in a way that would make your high school English teacher realize you really were paying attention in class. And you could start your own blog or podcast or YouTube channel. You could do it today. You could do it for free. What strengths do you have that others could benefit from? You'll be surprised at how many other people are hungry for that one thing that you're so good at. Time is our most precious resource. It's all you've got. Every hour spent raging about a provocative tweet from a politician is an hour not spent mentoring a young person in your community. Every evening consumed by fuming about the outrageous acts of somebody else is an evening not invested in building a skill that you might have that just could change the world. And if not change the world, at least make your neighborhood a little bit better. As Covey wrote, the key is not to prioritize what's on your schedule, but to schedule your priorities. If healing division and creating positive change are truly our priorities, then we've got to actively spend some time doing that. In a politically divided America, adopting the circle of influence mindset isn't about disengagement from important issues. No, quite the opposite. It's about strategic, effective engagement that recognizes the reality of our finite resources, particularly our time. By shifting our focus from the vast circle of concern to the circle of influence, we don't just become more effective, we're also experiencing greater well being. Our days are more enjoyable. Research consistently shows that agency and purpose contribute significantly to psychological health. And while helplessness and anger only detract from it, and perhaps more importantly, this shift creates a positive reinforcement cycle. When we focus on that circle of influence, we're inspiring other people to do the same. And these ripples of influence can gradually transform the broader concerns that once seemed so intractable. In a nation desperate for healing, this may be the wisest path forward. Billions of Americans, each focusing on what they can genuinely change, creating an aggressive impact far greater than the endless cycles of outrage and despair could ever achieve. Perhaps most importantly, when we are concentrating on our circle of influence, we're also inspiring other people to do the same. And just like dropping a stone into the water, those ripples touch one part of the water and then another and extend little by little all the way to the shore. In a nation desperate for healing, this may be the wisest path forward. Millions of Americans, each focusing on what they can genuinely change, creating an aggregate impact far greater than endless cycles of outrage and despair could ever achieve. The Serenity Prayer, that I'm sure we're all familiar with, was authored by American theologian Reinhold Niebuhr in 1932. The prayer is widely used in various contexts. The Serenity Prayer, as originally written, says, God, give us the grace to accept with serenity the things that cannot be changed, courage to change the things which should be changed, and the wisdom to distinguish the one from the other. Our time is indeed our most precious resource. How will you invest yours today? Thanks for stopping by. This has been Frank Buck, helping you get organized and make it look easy.